When I first met my teacher, so many years ago, there was an instant connection with this man, primarily because of a simple sentence he used on our first evening together. I sat in a lowly lit Dharma hall with the smell of incense and this beautiful marble Burmese Buddha in front of me, and this humble Buddhist monk arrived and took his place and said the words that actually changed my life. Those words were quite simple, but it was the part of my practice that I had been waiting for, actually. I'd been training in transcendental meditation and then Zen, Rinzai Soto Zen, which I loved. But I always felt something was missing. I didn't really know what it was, and then because of geography and life events, I found myself a long way from anywhere where I could practice, until I met this man. And this Burmese Buddhist monk, he took his place in the Dharma hall and he said, if you want to be happy in your life, you have to cultivate a loving heart. And I heard those words with my heart, and I realized, oh, this is the part that was missing. Now, how do I do it? And then for the next 22 years, every time I would be with him, if I arrived with some kind of difficulty or problem or concern in my life, his response would always be the same. Michael, now you need loving kindness. And he was always right. And how do I know he was right? Because I applied his teaching to the situation. That's the whole of Dharma, that we test it. And so I applied the situation of love, I applied love to every situation that I found myself in, and tested the teaching. And this is what we have to do. We have to test the teaching. And so now when I'm presenting retreats and courses and whatever else, loving kindness is such an important part, because all I really want to do is share the beauty of this practice, the beauty that I have received and experienced for myself. And when we begin our loving kindness practice, we have this simple verse that we repeat to ourselves silently, but with some kind of power. Now we're talking about loving ourselves. Very often, the most difficult person in the world to love is this being that we call self. We're full of judgments and carrying the criticisms and perhaps disappointments from our parents or our school teachers or whoever else that had such an important part in shaping this identity. So we begin by offering love to ourselves. May I be free from the 8 unwholesome aspects that dominate my life. If I can be free from those, then I'm not going to be fighting and struggling with other people or with life itself. That life will no longer be seen as a crisis or something that we have to overcome, but something that we can live peacefully in and enjoy and celebrate. May I be free from anger and ill will. May I be free from fear and anxiety. May I be free from suffering and pain. May I be free from ignorance and desire. May I be free from anger and ill will. Whatever you may think in different moments, however you can rationalize and explain and justify your behavior, anger is never your friend. And ill will, having a bad feeling for someone else, when these qualities are prominent in our mind, then we're not happy. Angry people are not happy people are not angry. So in a way, we choose one over the other. Love is always better than fear. Peace is always better than anger or ill will. So we respond to the situation in a different way. But we always respond. When a response is necessary, then we always respond. May I be free from anger and ill will. May I be free from fear and anxiety. May I be free from suffering and pain. May I be free from ignorance and desire. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be harmonious. May I be liberated from greed and hatred and delusion. And may I realize the deeper peace within. So the first part is the the letting go of the 8 unwholesome aspects of mind that do not take us to happiness. That's all. They're not wrong or bad or wicked or evil. They just don't take us to happiness. And happiness is something valuable. You know, because when you're happy, that's what you bring to each situation. You bring your happiness, you bring your joy, you bring your smile, you bring something that other people want to enjoy. When you're unhappy, when you're afraid, and when you're angry, that's what you bring to the situation. And people may not be so welcoming in that circumstance. So the first part is where we understand and let go of these different aspects of mind that do not take us to happiness. And then because we love ourselves, or we're beginning the process of loving ourselves, we wish for this being that we call self, conditions that are happy, that are peaceful, that are loving and generous and kind, beginning with happiness itself. May I be happy and peaceful. I've already just said, when you're happy, that's what you share with the world. When you're unhappy, that's what you share with the world. So your practice is not selfish. Many people think this. Oh, how could I love myself when there are so many other people in the world or other beings that are struggling? The whole of loving kindness is understood like this. If I want to invite you to my home for a meal, before I can do that, I have to get the food for myself. Once I have it for myself, then I can share it with you. This is how love works. We cultivate a loving relationship to this being that we call self. First of all, by letting go of the conditions that take us to unhappiness, and then by cultivating the conditions that take us to happiness. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be harmonious. To live in harmony with this mind that's not really ours, that arises and passes away. It doesn't ask for our permission or our consent. It just arises and passes away. And this body, as it passes through life, through old age, sickness and death. So we have to live in harmony with that if we want to be in peace. May I be liberated from the conditions of my unhappiness. May I be liberated from greed and hatred and delusion. Greed is just the mind that reaches for an object. It says, if only I had that, then I'd be happy. And of course that goes on forever. This reaching for an object, something subtle, something material, something spiritual. If only I had that, then I would be happy. And hatred is the opposite. It's pushing things away. If only I didn't have this, then I would be happy. And then delusion. Delusion is the part of the mind that really believes that process, that really does believe, I just need one more thing, then I can be happy forever. Or I just have to let go or get rid of this one thing so I can be happy forever. And then delusion is the empowerment of that process. And then we have the last one. May I realize the deeper peace within. When the mind falls quiet, then we realize this peace, which is here. It's not something from outside, and it's not through years of practicing mantras and different meditation practices. I think we are so blessed that even 2,600 years later, we have the teaching of the Buddha that is there for us to test for ourselves. Whenever I had difficulty with my life or my worldly concerns, I would go to my teacher and he would say, Michael, now you need loving kindness. And he was always right. And how do I know he was always right? Because it always worked. Whatever you may think about love, it is the most powerful force in the universe, and it is much more powerful ultimately than fear. And so we begin to encourage this understanding that everything we experience is coming from ourselves. It's not coming from outside. The triggers may be outside, but the anger you experience is coming from you. It has a fear base. It's coming from you. The doubt, the disappointment, the frustration, the anxiety, it's coming from you. It's so convenient to look at someone else and say, well, it's your fault, I feel like this, but that's really not how it works at all. One of the qualities of our Dharma practice is that we have to be brave. Dharma is a word that means truth. So the reality is something we have to conform to, not try to adjust it to fit our own mind state in different moments. But at the same time, we have to take care of our own lives, because now we're cultivating a loving relationship to our own life. So it's not to be ever a victim to someone or something else. To take care of you. And it's really important to take care of yourself. This body, you should take care of it because it's your vehicle for awakening. This mind, you should take care of it because it's where your happiness begins and ends. So we get to the final part of the loving kindness before we extend it out to all beings. But it is this simple sentence: may I realize the deeper peace within. And it's that word realize. May I reconnect with. May I recognize that everything I want is here. There isn't something to get from outside. It's here. So when we are able to be in this place of this peaceful, this deeper peace within, where the self-identity just falls quiet, then this mind manifests in one of four ways in every moment. Only one of four ways. And these are called in Buddhist teaching the Brahma viharas, translated into English as the abodes of the gods. It's where the gods live, in these beautiful places. The first one is love. And this is always, as I say, love with this capital L. Not attachment, not romantic or emotional love, but unconditional, universal, boundless, limitless acceptance of all beings exactly as they are in this moment, including this being here, the hardest one of all to accept, but this being. And the Buddhist word for this is metta. And the expression is metta bhavana. Bhavana is, again, a Buddhist word which means to cultivate something. So if we like to work in the garden, we have to cultivate the seed so it will grow into a beautiful flower. Well, it's the same with these Brahma viharas. The first one is metta bhavana, to cultivate the opening of the heart. So it is open like a lotus flower. So you can be at peace with things however they manifest. And then you can respond always. So, you've heard it said that love is the most powerful force in the universe. I've just said it myself. Yes, it is, but you have to understand what it is. It's not the getting of something. It's the opening of the heart. It's the letting go of the fear that dominates your life. Everything is fine. We make a fuss about things because we're encouraged all the time to be afraid. But in the end, well, it's just life, and sometimes you get what you want, and that's lovely. Enjoy it. But sometimes you don't get what you want. But that's all right, really, isn't it? We're adult people. And sometimes you get what you don't want. But we can deal with it. We're not these simple victims that perhaps the media and politics likes to portray us as, that we need all these certain things to survive. We're fine. We're actually fine. So we have this feeling of love, this boundless, limitless acceptance of all beings exactly as they are in this moment. Our whole Dharma movement, our whole life is only ever about this moment. Any moment that is not this moment is a fabrication of mind. The past is just a thought, and when do you have that thought? Now. The future is just a thought, and when do you have that thought? Now. So we have the cultivation of love, of metta, unconditional, limitless, boundless acceptance of all beings and the universe and everything that exists exactly as it is in this moment. The next one is compassion, called karuna. Compassion is the recognition that all beings suffer. Millionaires suffer also. It's not just poor people living in India or actually anywhere else, because suffering belongs to the mind. So it doesn't matter how things appear to be. You can appear to have everything and still suffer. You may not be suffering about whether you will have enough to eat, only whether your stocks and shares will succeed or whatever else. That suffering that we recognize is because of our own relationship to ourselves. That we recognize that pain is pain, whether it's physical or emotional. And the reason we experience it is because we are alive and because we have a mind. So all beings who have mind have the possibility and the potential for suffering, for unhappiness, for frustration, for disappointment, for fear-based mind states. So we recognize that the recognition is we're all the same, aren't we? And we are. Animals suffer pain and fear. Yeah, and I don't think you need to take sort of political or social views about this. You only need to have a pet in your house. So this compassion, again, is boundless, limitless. There are no limitations. There are not that we have compassion for this group of people or this group of animals, but not this. Because when the self-identity falls away, then there's nothing to prevent this love and this compassion radiating outwards into the universe. So that's compassion. And the next one is, it's called joy or sympathetic joy, mudita, in Buddhist teaching, mudita. When the heart is open, and when this self-identity, the part of you that's always negotiating and demanding that the world be a particular way in every moment, when that falls away, and that's our practice really, and the practice of vipassana is to see how empty all these thoughts, moods, feelings and emotions are. And so we let them go, let them go, let them go, let them go. But you don't disappear. What disappears, this is quite important to state, you don't disappear. Your enthusiasm for life doesn't disappear. What disappears are the conditions for your unhappiness or your suffering, your frustration. Those are the things that fall away. And what's left is just this beautiful being with a smile. When the Buddha became enlightened under the Bodhi tree, which is now, of course, in Buddha Gaya, his response to that letting go completely was a smile. The smile of liberation. So that same smile waits for you. This joyful experience of life then, because the fear base is being dissolved more and more. It's not reckless and it's not careless, but it's joyful. My teacher was a very joyful, happy and funny man. It was beautiful to be with him. Even just to be close to him, you would feel this joy because there's no fear to prevent it. There was nothing to stop his happiness manifesting because he wasn't carrying fear with him. And that, of course, waits for you. It is where loving kindness practice takes you. And then the last one is equanimity, or perhaps to oversimplify it, it means to be in balance in life. It's called upekkha, where the world just does not disturb you anymore, whether it's something pleasant or unpleasant. If it's pleasant, you can enjoy it, understanding that the nature of this pleasant experience is to be impermanent, so it's going to pass away. And if it's unpleasant, the same conditions apply. You can be with it peacefully until it passes away. Everything is the nature of all phenomena to be impermanent. So this is a truth we have to live with. But when we are equanimous, that simple truth of beings perhaps being born and dying, of beings coming into our life where we can have a nice time with them, and then leaving us, we meet with a balanced attitude to life. So very simply, these are the 4 Brahma viharas, the deeper peace within. Love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So whenever I would go to my teacher, he would say, "Oh, Michael, now you need loving kindness." And I would apply it to every situation. And I would watch my life open. I would watch my heart and my life itself open like a lotus flower until I could be at peace with things. And it's not about identifying, oh, this is equanimity or upekkha, oh, this is metta now, this is compassion. Those identifications just fall away. We're not interested in that. But it's just the manifestation of a heart and so of a being who lives without fear. And this waits for all of us. This is not something special that only a few people can do. What you need to do is to commit to the practice in a loving and often quite relaxed way. You have to do what you have to do, but not to put yourself under pressure. One person came to me, so many years ago now, a man, and he said, I have to get loving kindness. I said, that's not where it comes from. It doesn't come from a closed fist, it's from an open heart. May I be free from anger and ill will. May I be free from fear and anxiety. May I be free from suffering and pain. May I be free from ignorance and desire. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be harmonious. May I be liberated from greed and hatred and delusion. And may I realize the deeper peace within. And so I offer these few words today for your reflection, your consideration, and may you all be well and happy. And I thank you.